Hi there, welcome to the second episode of my 10-minute moan of today. The topic of this 10-minute moan is quite outrageous. The figures involved in paying wind farms in Scotland not to operate and produce electricity. And it comes in the back of a previous video where I uncovered the absolute sham of Scotland's offshore wind farms. Now, this information is not new, but it's a topic that I've done previously and I've always wanted to revisit. So although the figures are from 2023, I'll give you some indication as to why you and I are both paying high fuel bills, because we are burning money. We are not very good at making energy efficiently. And we give lots of people big chunks of it to do nothing. Now, this is figures that were, I think it was about February of last year, were given out by the Scottish Daily Express, I believe, although they didn't say it. I think they got these figures via a Freedom of Information request. And it showed the 275 million given to Scottish wind farms for turning off their turbines. Crazy, isn't it? They actually ran a story several months ago with the headline, all the Scottish wind farms that shared 275 million bonanza from energy bills for switching off. Now, in this story, and this happens quite a lot with me, I seem to see things in stories that journalists don't. And I'm going to read this story out to you. And I'm going to pinpoint the thing that shocked me. That's as probably much of a story as this £275 million is. Because there's two lots of money that wind farm owners get from us, from the governments, so that's our money, when they produce wind farm energy, or not, as the case may be, because they get subsidised if they do, and they get subsidised if they don't. And it's bonkers. So there's no financial risk in having a wind farm. The financial risk is our governments, their taxpayers, you and I. And it's absolutely criminal. So I'm going to go through the story and I'll pick up on the point that the newspapers seem to have just fudged over. They didn't see the value in something that I've seen. And it'll probably become quite evident to you as I go on. So the headline is, all the Scottish wind farms that shared 275 million bonanza from energy bills for switching off. Exclusive full table of the wind farms that shared a record sum in 2023 as they were paid millions of pounds for literally doing nothing, with the cost added to energy bills across the UK. Scottish wind farm operators received a record sum of almost 275 million last year for switching off the turbines and supplying no electricity to the grid. These constraint payments are necessary at times of high wind and low demand, or when the grid doesn't have enough capacity with all the power that's been produced by the UK's tens of thousands of turbines. Ultimately, the cost is added to bills paid by householders and business owners. Under the terms of the deal struck with the government, energy firms are paid an agreed sum, which varies from month to month, for all the electricity they could have supplied. The vast bulk of these constraints are paid to wind farms in Scotland, due to the bottleneck in the grid taking power to consumers in England. Last year, the total value of constraint payments to energy firms in the UK was 307 million for the whole UK, 275 million for Scotland, right? The highest figure on record, up from 227 million the year previous, 143 and 274 million in 2020. You can quite understand the 2021 being a bit of a peak with COVID, probably more of us at home than normal. 10 years previously, in 2013, it was 33 million. And 3 years before that, it was 175 grand. So since 2010, we went up from £175,000 to 307 million, given to people who own wind farms when we tell them we don't want or can't take their electricity that their wind turbines are producing. What a system. The two biggest beneficiaries are Moray East and Seagreen offshore wind farms in the North Sea, and I'll come back to this because that's the last story was about, particularly the offshore ones. And it's quite massive how the subsidies are far greater to them than they are to the onshore. It's quite a big difference here, which have both came on stream in the past couple of years. But several Scottish onshore wind farms received bumper payouts in 2023, most notably Clyde in South Lanarkshire, with almost 17 million. That's nearly 1.5 million per month. About 600 grand a week, almost £100,000 per day to have a wind turbine that doesn't move. This 206 turbine wind farm near Biggar, straddling the M74, is operated by SSE Renewables, who I believe are foreign owned. The same firm operates Stone Lairg wind farm in the mountains near Loch Ness, which received 11.6 million. So you're on nearly 30 million. Right, this one company. Other big farm operators on the list include EDF Renewables, foreign company, Scottish Power, ain't owned by Scotland, and Community Wind Power, who I don't know who they are. The only reason I know about the other ones is I researched them for my previous video, which I'll put a link up here to at the end of this one. Our table shows that most of the 84 Scottish wind farms that received constraint payments last year are based in just a few council areas, 22 of them in the Highlands, 14 in Dumfries and Galloway, and 11 in South Lanarkshire. Of course, this isn't all the wind farms in Scotland, just those that received constraints. So then it gives us a list of those getting money. And the top two at £42 million and £39 million. Now bear in mind the whole in the UK is 307, and there's 275 million of that in Scotland, yet over 80,000 of that is to one offshore wind farm owner, with two wind farms getting over 80 million pounds. And I need to discuss something in my previous video. When we put these leases up for auction, these are auctioned off by the Scottish Government, we put a maximum price per acre on the auction and guaranteed them these payments. And that's one company with two offshore wind farms are getting 80 million quid back. That's before they sell a bit of electricity. This whole thing is a scam. The next biggest is only 16.8 million, and that's the biggest for onshore. It's absolutely bonkers. We've got another offshore one at 9 million. So these companies who had a maximum in what they could pay to rent the land, the seabed rather, that they put the offshore ones on, £100 million, I'd say, in total, per year. Per year. And listen, the story gets better, because we still we still pay for the electricity that we do take off them, and even when we do take that, there's another kickback we get as well. And Nicola Sturgeon put a maximum on how much they could pay for the leases. It blows your mind. In a blog post, the RAF explains constraint payments arise excuse me, when wind farms are paid to reduce output at times when the electricity can neither be used locally nor, because of network congestion, be transmitted to areas of the country where it can be used. It goes on to explain that this, listen to this dead important bit that the paper doesn't actually go on about. This goes on to explain that constraint payments are not to compensate for loss of the subsidy payment wind farms receive on top of prevailing wholesale price of electricity, rather than for the electricity itself. So, let me just read that back to you again, because you might not believe it, because I didn't when I read it. This is to compensate for the loss of subsidy payment wind farms receive on top of the prevailing wholesale price of electricity. So even the electricity that we do give and take off them, and we pay wholesale money for that, we also give them a subsidy. So we buy the electricity, and for every kilowatt of electricity, we give them a top up. For what? I don't know. Just because we can. And then for if we don't buy electricity off them, they'll lose out on the subsidy. So that's what we're paying them for. The subsidy that they would have got if we'd bought it off them in the first place. So we pay them twice. When they produce it, electricity, we pay them a subsidy. And when they don't, we pay them a subsidy. This 275 million is purely the subsidy we pay when we don't buy in off them. I will obviously try and find out how much subsidy we pay when we do buy off it. These are no-fail businesses. These are no-risk businesses. Absolutely zero. Because as long as they can get the money together to actually build the turbine, they're guaranteed profit. Because we buy off them, we give them the wholesale value, which is preset, plus a subsidy because it's coming for a turbine. When the grid can't buy it, we still give them the subsidy. Honestly, this is a grow rich scheme that we weren't allowed into, right? This is a grow rich scheme that didn't actually need to exist. Because like Scotland, we keep getting told that we'll probably have our own national energy business at some point, which we don't need to pay anybody subsidy. We could probably really half our rates that we then charge to business, to the consumer. It's great, isn't it? It's just one big scam. Payments to wind farms to reduce output are ongoing national scandal, with the cost to consumers now totalling well over $1 billion since the payments began in 2010. We've repeatedly observed, there are 30 billion now. That keeps getting up, about $500 million soon. It'll be a lot more than $1 billion in the next 10 years. Grid congestion preventing dispatch is a foreseeable commercial risk, and the wind farms should not be compensated at all for such an eventuality. However, it has been accepted by government and the regulator that such compensation for lost subsidy should be paid. It's an absolutely no-brainer business. And by the way, watch the video that I'll put at the end about the wind turbine scam. None of the companies that got them for the offshore wind farms in Scotland were British businesses. Some of them are actually owned by, like Spain and Norway, it's their national energy companies that bought and were given the leases for the offshore ones in Scotland, and now we subsidise them. Yeah, we are subsidising foreign-owned state fuel businesses. And when they want to buy more leases, we'll say, yeah, and there's a maximum price you can pay. It is absolute folly. There is no risk in owning a wind farm in Scotland, on or offshore, because you can't lose. And we've gave it all away to foreigners. Oh dear God. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please subscribe and hit the notifications bell. But most importantly of all, unless you're any of these crackpots that think things like this are clever, see everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.